All right, are you guys ready?
Yep.
Ready when you are.
All right. All right, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. Episode 21 with Peggy Paulick. Paulick,
Correct.
did I butcher that? Okay. I don't know if I was gonna butcher that or not. We got Jake. Jake's one of the fellow guys in my firehouse. He's gonna come on. Brandon. Brendan dropped the ball here. I told him I was gonna beat him up a little bit for not being able to make it, but I have to. He's a busy man. He's got kids, and that he takes care of that. So that's what's important. So bringing Peggy on, gonna let her tell her story. It's a little bit of an interesting one. I know that I don't know anybody that's kind of got into it as late as she has. But you did have a little bit of background that kind of probably gave you some interest in wanting to get into the fire service, right?
Right.
Okay.
I actually moved down here about a year and a half ago
Where
from
from?
Ohio. And when I was in Ohio, I volunteered with the Lorain County Emergency Planning Committee. And I've probably been with them probably 10 years as a volunteer. And so I did have an interest in this and had gone through some hazmat awareness training when I was with them. But when I moved down here, my son told me, he said, you're only like a half mile from Cheat Lake Volunteer Fire Department. And I was like, really? And I looked him up online and saw that they had community meetings and went to one and met Chief Jason Christopher.
And you almost forgot his name. You might see this.
And I usually just call him Chief. And he asked me, he says, "What, do you want to be a firefighter?" And I said, "Well, I think I'm probably a little too old." And he says, No, not at all. He says, there's a job here for anyone who wants to come and volunteer. And I believed him, and he was absolutely true. I mean, I am amazed. I never thought I was going to be in this position. I did not think 2 years ago I was going to be a firefighter, but I am.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, you definitely. I think it was a bit of a surprise to everybody, right? I mean, but on the flip side of that, obviously, what's so crazy is there is people that are, still young, right? And then don't even want to kind of make the commitment to kind of go through the training and everything that they need to be able to do it. And just for everybody watching, so it kind of adds to your story a little bit. How old are you?
I'm 78 3/4.
Right. That is so impressive, right? And
great.
there's 25-year-old kids that I know that probably couldn't keep up with you.
Well,
but that's a whole total different generation too, right? Like we talk about at work. And one of the guys that I work with every day is like, he's my dad's age. He's 60, well, about 60. So, and he always tells me, he's like, your guys' generation just ruined. He goes, my generation, he goes, could barely make it. He goes, in the generation before me, he goes, you guys, there's no way you guys could be still working here if they worked here. And I think it's so funny when he always tells me that.
No, it's
he's like,
I retired several years ago, and I wasn't ready not to contribute. And so when I talked to Jason, and he kind of convinced me to see what they're all about, I think that's the biggest thing I've learned is there's things you can still do. I work out at Planet Fitness, and I see people my age there, and I think, I run the broom at car accidents. They can do that, but they don't. I don't think they think they can do it, but they can.
Yeah, you got to kind of keep yourself going, right? Like I think that when people get into that older stage, they kind of just think like, well, I'm retired, I'm just kind of gonna relax and not do anything. But like that's the worst thing to do, right? Is to sit around and not do anything.
Right. Right.
So
I just felt I could
awesome.
do something.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there is, like I said, we we have trouble getting people that are, you know, 20 years, 40. And I'm not trying to offend you, but like, I mean, it's crazy. We have like I said, we have 17-year-old kids that are joining now that
Right.
I'm sure that whenever you get on scene and you know that like something needs done, you don't have to, you know, they don't have to sit there and say, "Oh my God, Peggy's just standing by the truck not doing anything." But and you're out doing stuff, right? But like we have kids that won't even go get a broom off a truck and like take the initiative to do something. They have to be told.
Yeah, I think sometimes being the new kid, uh,
Mhm.
you're kind of afraid to do the wrong thing,
Yeah,
And what
that's
I
true.
found going through the firefighter one class, I learned so much about just, basics, of course, but things that, you pick up so fast that makes such a difference. And, like even keeping the guys hydrated on the scene, bringing them out water,
Absolutely.
that's important.
Absolutely. Yeah. Rehab,
Yeah.
doing a rehab and stuff. And that's something awesome. Like you said, that, you still have a place. And at our department, we did have a squad that we kind of put together with their own little rehab and stuff. And like, that's something very important to do, right? Like nobody's telling you. And I know that you took the class and stuff and you definitely got the experience, and everything, and it gives you a really good understanding of kind of what, if you're not going to go inside, to still kind of understand what's going on inside, right, and what somebody's going through, rather than just being somebody that's just kind of there off the street and you're like, man, I don't know why that guy's so out of breath, right? Like I don't like you now have a firsthand experience on like what that kind of person, what that person went through.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And it, like I said, everybody's got a job, or there's a job
Hmm.
for everyone, you know. And I live out here at Cheat Lake, and I was
Hmm.
talking to my neighbors, and they were up in the forest working, and I brought them up some water, some bottled water, and I told them, I said, that's probably the second most important lesson I learned as a firefighter was to stay hydrated often. Yeah. And you think that's
Yeah,
a
I mean,
minor thing, but it's really important.
yeah, that's uh it's well, a big thing to that too is like I throw that whole hydration thing into the whole like rehab thing, right? And like now, like then there for the longest time, like the leading cause of death, in the firefighter community was cardiac arrest, and then cancers now surpassed that.
Right.
But guys kind of don't realize too that you're just inside, your heart is absolutely about to blow out of your chest because you're in a very extremely stressful situation. Um, there's a million things going on around you. You're wearing 70 pounds of gear on top of your normal body weight.
Mhm.
Your breathing's restricted. You're breathing in a way that you normally don't breathe, and and you know, you're walking upstairs, you're inside, moving around, a lot of stuff. And guys really don't realize that when they come out, like just to take a second to give your body a little bit of a rest rather than throw another bottle on and then just take off back inside the door because uh you may feel fine, but you're not that same person that just showed up 20 minutes ago and got off the truck.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. One of the other big lessons I learned was to trust my equipment, and wearing your air pack, your
Hmm.
SCBA, you know, that's a challenge the first couple
It is.
times.
It definitely
And
is.
we have our work sessions on Wednesday nights. And
Hmm.
at one of these work sessions, what they had us do is put on our air packs, put on air, and just do our regular chores around the station,
Hmm.
and you just got used to it, that you learned how to work with it. And like I said, to trust it.
Yeah, so there for a while, and actually had a couple people from Cheat Lake coming over at our department. We were doing like an in-house training, um, where we actually built our own maze, and we were teaching. And it was when I kind of first started it. It was more based towards juniors, new firefighters, and stuff. Um, mainly because I know that, like, I'm probably a pain in the ass to teach in a class. Somebody like I've been around for a little while, so I think that I know everything, kind of thing. And I know that I'm probably a little hard to teach sometimes, a little condescending. So when I first started it, I just did juniors, newer people and stuff because they're eager to learn, they're willing to
Right.
listen, uh, and the first couple times, like I said, had the newer people, and then I actually had some people reach out and was like, "Hey, it doesn't have to be for newer people." And I'm like, "No, like, if you'd like to come and run the maze and get some experience and stuff." And we probably had over 20 people last time we did it. We smoked the room out with our smoke machine. It's a very
Wow.
realistic maze. Yeah, it's awesome. It's good. Um, we did a really good job. Assistant chief over at Tryon Halleck helped me out with it a lot. We send everybody through. Like, we have a window prop that we send everybody through.
Hmm.
And then after that, it's just kind of like hectic. There's a couple of obstacles in there. The whole entire time you're following a hose line, so it's teaching you about following your couplings.
Right.
And we actually have some situations that we'll kind of throw in there where we'll do God, I had a mind blank there. So we do a couple Mayday situations where we'll have some
Oh,
firefighters
wow.
down, and this
Hmm.
in Mon County is not very familiar, or for a lot of people of like RIT, like rapid intervention team. But a
Right.
couple of the newer people, just if they were ever kind of thrown in that situation, we had them actually standing outside of the maze, outside of the door, just in case. And then we were like you would in real life, right? Like, they're sitting outside. That's what they're
Right.
supposed to do, is do nothing but sit, just in case something happens. We'd have one of the down firefighters set off their pass device, and we'd send the RIT team in to actually go and get them. And it turned out great, right? Like, so that's one of the scariest things. And what we really tried to do was is try to make it as real as possible without putting anybody in any kind of potential danger, right? Like, we literally
Right.
had the lights. Luckily, on our one side of the hall, we could like dim the lights down to where like you could barely see. Turned the disco ball on, added that effect in, and we had the smoke and everything. And it was probably the best like training scenario that you could really ask for, because it created a real kind of situation.
Right.
Without the heat, it was probably about as real as you could really get. But
I know that the training we had down when we had to do the practical, go through the flashover simulator,
right.
and then go into the burn building.
Hmm.
That was such a huge lesson. I mean, uh, I was really concerned about the flashover simulator because I had watched it on YouTube, of course,
Yeah, it's scary,
and
right? Like, it's
it is scary, but it was so amazing that when you get in there, when you crawl in there, and you've got all your gear on and you're trusting your
mhm.
gear, and then you see this flame come above your head. It I
Yeah,
mean, first of all, it's really quite pretty. It's really beautiful, but
it is.
you get to recognize it and you're in a completely controlled situation, but yet they're showing you what can happen and what to look for. The training was awesome.
It is good. It's really good. So, I really like it. One of the like, I guess, one of the worst, I guess, like, things about that is it's not it's meant to like show you like a flashover, but like really what they're showing you is more like a rollover, right? Because like they're building the
Yeah.
fire up to the point to where there's so much fire load, and then you have the unburnt smoke, which is obviously
Right.
fuel, and then it's catching. But yeah, so like what's what's crazy is like whenever I first did it, and they're like, "Yeah, we're gonna go in flashover chamber." Like, what do you mean we're gonna go in flashover? We're gonna die, right? And then like that's the best that they can show you without you dying, kind of situation, right?
Right.
But no, it's great because there's people that went through their fire one years and years and years ago that never got to experience that, um, and it's kind of showing you how like training is coming along, right? Like, back in the
Right.
day, you have guys that were talking about, they're like, "Yeah, I took my fire one. It was like a 20-hour class. Like, I took it out to work."
Wow.
You know what I mean?
No,
Well, it really used to be like a 40-hour class. Like, used to have guys that used to take it like 40 hours. I'm pretty sure at one point it was almost a weekend class. and then
Oh,
and then
gee.
they're just keep yeah, and then they just keep adding, adding on, and now it's like a 120-hour class, which is getting a little ridiculous. I'm not going to lie, because it is, and that's one of like the biggest downfalls that we have is the hours that are required to be a firefighter, right? Like technically, you're not supposed to be on the fire ground without firefighter one training,
Mhm.
which, yeah, but you know, when it went from they had all these guys back in the day, like, oh yeah, we had all these guys. Well, yeah, it was only a 40-hour class. Now it's, triple that. And people
Right,
now, are working way more, have way more, I don't want to say like responsibilities, because it's not like it's a
right,
different world, but there's a lot more that people are doing these days, and they can't, really go do a 120-hour class like every single weekend, because now most jobs, you're working on the weekend.
right, right.
So
You're committed. Yeah.
yeah, they're
Uh,
gonna have to do something. They're gonna have to figure it out.
yeah. Since then, I have also taken The Art of Reading Smoke.
Hmm.
What a good class that was. That
It is
was
a good. It is a good class.
excellent. Yeah. And then
Be-
I also did the EVOC, the Emergency Vehicle
mhm.
Operation.
Did you take it
That
in
was,
engine?
yeah, they
Did you
did
take it
not
in
put me
engine,
in
or you
the
take it in
fire
a
truck
squad?
to
No, come on, Peggy. I'd have put you in the fire truck.
drive. I was driving the utility. So I'm not sure I could reach the pedals in the fire truck.
Yeah, listen, it's so weird to, well, one, it's weird to drive something with air brakes anyways, right? If you never have. And then two, it is so weird to drive a cab over, because you're not used to it.
Right, right. But it was,
Um
I guess the thing that amazed me about all of this is how accepted I was as a firefighter.
yeah,
I
like
mean,
it
I
didn't
was,
matter your age, right? Or the fact that
yeah,
you were a woman, which,
right.
so then
I
people are
was
like,
not treated,
wow, they're like,
yeah, no, I wasn't treated any different than, I mean, in our firefighter one class, we had a couple students that had to have their parents sign their permission slip to take the class.
mhm.
So there was a huge age difference, but we were all treated the same. At the station, I'm treated the same. I just want to encourage people that if they even have an interest in this, just come out. Just come out and find out what it's about.
Yeah, so like obviously, we kind of let people know that, you've obviously took your fire one and stuff. So what did you what did you kind of do a little bit before you retired and stuff? Like what did you do for a job?
Well, I had radio, and
Hmm.
then I worked in the public sector with
Okay.
education.
Okay.
So I kind of have been involved in reaching out to communities
Okay.
and being a liaison, and I think that's
Mhm.
what I kind of see my role now as being the oldest the oldest student to graduate. you know, just as like, if I can do it, you can do
Mhm.
it, or at least give it a try, just come out and find out what we're about. And there's so many different
Yeah.
jobs at the fire department, that I find that my communication skills that I had on my job
Yeah, there is.
certainly serve me well when I'm on the scene, you know, talking to people who are maybe having not the best day of their life, but there's just always ways to communicate and contribute.
Yeah.
Yes, I am.
Well, something else you got going for you, Peggy, is you're a woman, right? And one of the, like, I've seen it firsthand. Yeah, I've seen it firsthand, like, in car wrecks and stuff, especially with children. It is so
Yeah,
much more comforting for them if there's a woman on scene, right? They instantly kind of feel like safe, right? It's a
right.
lot different if you have like a bunch of these burly men walking around and stuff, and they're like, like, I don't want this guy around me. But I've been on plenty of wrecks with my wife, and they instantly, like, the kids kind of connect with her, you know what I mean? And they feel a lot safer, um and it's awesome. I mean, it's nice anytime that we
Right.
could have somebody on the truck that could, especially with like communicating with them. If they're inside of the car, we can't get them out and stuff. As soon as they would hear like
Right.
my wife's voice or whatever, they're like, okay, like
Yeah, we
I
certainly have
instantly
a
feel a
different
lot
point of
better
view
that there's
sometimes.
somebody there. But you do, yeah, you definitely do. It's like a motherly instinct kind of just like kicks in, and then kind of us
Yeah.
like men sometimes we just like have
That's funny that
like a
you
little
said
hamster
motherly
inside of our head that
instinct
just
because
keeps
I
running
found that
around on that wheel.
when I was down
Uh,
at the burn building.
okay.
Suddenly all these guys, it was like I was, wear your gloves. How about your hat? Let
Hmm.
me check it, Suddenly you do turn into, I don't want to say the mother, but that's part of the camaraderie is you do care for each other and you do make sure each other are safe. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Like, and I mean, because we're all there, you know, to help out, right? And the last thing you want to see is somebody get hurt,
Right.
especially, um, one of your own people. So yeah, so you kind of do. It's weird how, and you kind of like build like, bond in relationship with people that like are total strangers, right? That you don't even know. But then as time goes on and you're doing this, weird thing, volunteer firefighting, it's kind of
Mhm.
weird how
Yes,
you
you're right.
like feel
You're
like
right.
some of these people a little bit
After I
better
came
than
out of the
people that are in
burn
your own
building,
family.
you're hot and everything. And yeah, yeah. And my chief and
Hmm.
assistant chief were there
Yeah, yeah,
and
you're
they're
off
like, you
gassing and
did it,
stuff.
you
Yeah.
did it. And I said, but I didn't do it alone. I mean, I had so many people encouraging me along the way, and so many people even helping me there. Like when we first got there, they were talking about we had to climb a ladder. And I said, you know, the problem was they don't, I did not have good pants. Well, I had on pants that were a little long. So it was a little difficult to climb that ladder, but we made it through. And it wasn't that I
Hmm.
did it all by myself. I had people encouraging me.
Sure.
So it's a very supportive, incredible group of people.
It is right, and like even like on the fire ground, right? Like one person to me doesn't make a difference, right? Like that one single person isn't going to like put the fire out themselves. They're not gonna
Yeah,
make that huge of a difference. It's a really a team sport. Like everybody together really makes a whole picture. As much as you want to think that you're the only person there that made a difference, that's
yeah,
obviously not true because some people may not even know you were on the scene. You know what I mean? So it's true, right? Like I mean, and something else too is right. All the different skill sets, like there's stuff
right.
that one person knows and another person doesn't
And
know
I've learned
that
so much
that
from
can
the
make
other
a humongous
firefighters.
difference. And we kind of
I
all
mean,
have
it's
our roles.
incredible, even going to a work session, what you can pick up, another skill you pick up, or something that you didn't know that you pick up, or a hint on how to do something. It's it's constant learning in a good way. You don't feel like you're being pressured to learn, but there's all this knowledge coming to you.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's good,
I
good.
think that's probably the worst thing that you could get into in the fire service is like a mentality of, well, this is how we used to do it, and this is how we're going to keep doing it. Like things are constantly changing in the fire service, so
Absolutely.
it's really good to, especially like at work details
Right.
and
Hmm.
just kind of hanging out at the fire station. It's really good to try to pick up
Yeah.
stuff.
And,
Like, and
I was reading about
it's
lithium
so that's
batteries,
I like that.
talking about things
It,
changing.
it,
And it's like, that's not even on the
mhm.
horizon. It's here. You know, and what do we do about it? and there's just yeah, it's not, well, this is how we did it and this is how we're going to do it, and no, we have to adjust.
We definitely do.
Absolutely.
We definitely have to get out of our old habits. I think one of the weirdest things, right, is it, like Jake said, like if you're in a fire department that's always did things one way and that there's nobody else there that's ever really did it a different
Mm-hmm.
way, like if you're in a fire department where you don't really have people that come in from a different background, you know, different experience and stuff, that does things differently. If everybody does everything the exact same way and they always have, you really don't know that you're doing anything wrong at all, right? You would just always think that you're doing it the right way. Well, it's kind of crazy whenever you would see somebody do something and you're like, wow,
Right.
like, I didn't even know you can do it like that, or that was so much easier. Which, as time went in some departments, that's one of the good things, man, is that we actually get a lot of like random people coming in sometimes, right? Just like it's not even that, like, even though the college is right across the bridge, we don't really get that many college students. We get a bunch of kind of just random people sometimes, and
Mm-hmm.
that are coming from like different states and sometimes different departments, and some of the stuff that they're like, well, I knew how to do it like this, or I didn't know how to do it like that, and the kind of mixture of teaching people like you know ways that you've known how to do it, and them teaching you how they did it, and then you're like, well, that is easier, or you're like, wow, that's fucking terrible. I don't know who taught you how to do that, right? Kind of thing. But so that's either good, or on the flip hand, it's awful, like terrible. I'm like, whoever's teaching you that needs to quit teaching people stuff. Um, because that does happen, right? But that goes back to that mentality
Right. Right.
of
We
we've always
were
did it like
practicing
this, so it
loading
can't
a
be wrong.
hose a
Yeah.
couple weeks ago, and one of our volunteers is also with Morgantown Fire Department, and he just has so much knowledge, and so, you know, I am a little short. You probably can't tell, but loading this hose was difficult because I'm standing on the side of the truck,
Mm-hmm.
and I can barely reach up that high, and there weren't a lot of things for me to grab onto. But then he's showing
Mm-hmm.
me how to stagger the fold
Yep.
on it. And it was like, oh my
Right.
God, that makes so much sense. And I mean, I'd done
Mm-hmm.
it before, but we didn't do it quite like that. But he gave
Yep.
me the reason why we do it that way now. So yeah, everybody can teach you something. Yeah.
Yeah, Trevor, and you're talking about Trevor. Yeah, Trevor's a great guy. Yeah, Trevor's a great guy. He's got a lot of experience. He definitely does. He's a good guy, and like Trevor, is like one of those people that still wants to learn, right? Like he still likes to learn stuff that he didn't know, and but also likes to kind of
Right.
show
Right.
people stuff
He's
that he already knows
and
to try to make it easier
he
on them.
is so willing to share his knowledge. I mean, oh yeah.
Which is good, right? Because it's terrible when you have people that are in departments and they're just kind of like blah, kind of like we're going on the calls. The
Right.
calls are getting done. We don't really care how that person did it, as long as it got done, kind of situation. Which is just terrible to look at it like, okay, there's a check mark on that, and we're just gonna keep going, rather than um critiquing. I'd like to say like uh, because like in me, like I said, sometimes I probably think I'm the best, and I don't think I do anything wrong, which is obviously not true. But if on certain days, something that I've did 1,000 times, I may have like been absolutely goofed it up and didn't even really
Yeah.
realize it because
Or
I'm
wait a
so used
minute,
to doing
that
it.
needs to be
And
longer,
somebody could be
or
like, "Hey,
fuller,
like
or
what are you doing?"
yeah. Yeah.
Uh, yeah, like yeah. Yep. Do you got any questions, Jake?
I
Nothing.
don't think so. But
No.
but just to kind of Just kind of
Follow-ups?
not necessarily follow up, I guess would be a good word. Of like getting people from all different backgrounds and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Like I never planned on getting in the fire service. Never was a thought in my mind. And I went to Challenge Academy, and they offered the Fire One class, and I just kind of put my
In the
name in
Challenge
it for
Academy?
we were the
Oh,
first
that's
class
cool.
to do it. And so I was like, yeah, I'll put my name on the list. I doubt I'll get called, and got called, and been doing this for 10 years now. Like it's something that you can always improve on. Um,
That's
and you just
interesting
never stop training.
that you
And
said
that's
you never thought about doing
yeah,
this, but here you are. And I wonder how many other firefighters have that same story, that we
here I
all
am.
kind of got into it in different ways.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Hey, Jake, follow-up question. Perry did that class, right?
Yeah, Perry and Corky were my instructors.
Yeah, his brother's in the chat, and that's what he said. He said his brother and Corky helped do that class. Yeah, and
Dude,
Corky, man,
outstanding guys, man. I
yeah,
cannot say enough about them.
yeah, except for the guy Marshall. That was bad. That's bad news. But yeah, it's kind of crazy. Like, I know. Marshall will probably tell me. I know that Corky had to be up there too. Like he was definitely up there a little bit, and he still like went and did he taught so many
Oh my
classes, like it was
gosh.
insane. I don't. You ever um you ever heard of
No,
it's
no.
Corky? It's
I'm still
Thomas,
new.
right? Isn't that his
Yeah.
last name? Yeah. You ever heard of Corky Thomas, Peggy? He was. Oh, that's true. Yeah, forgot. Yeah, but it's crazy. As
Yeah.
when I got into the fire service, all the names that some of these people threw at me, and I'm like,
Oh yeah.
I don't know who that is. I don't know who that is. But then he was the chief at Kingwood, and then Perry took over for a while, and then they got a different chief now. But I think Perry's still up there and stuff. But Perry was actually at your he was at your burn building. He was he had pretty big mustache like mine, gray, had glasses
Yeah.
on. I don't know. Maybe you have to look back through your pictures.
There,
Yeah, he was there.
yeah,
He was one of the
there were
instructors.
so many
Great guy though.
So
people who
much
had
knowledge.
volunteered their time to stay with us and get us through this. I mean, I could just imagine,
Yeah.
they've
Yep.
got so much experience, and here we come in like a bunch of babies. And I said, the first time in our firefighter one class when we all put on our gear and our air and everything, and we're all outside, and everybody's kind of bumping into each other and jumping around. It's like, oh my God, they look like a bunch of kindergartners. That's basically what we were. We were just starting. We were just learning.
Yeah.
And I think my whole career dates back to when I was in kindergarten and went to the fire station. Who knows?
Yeah, so let's talk about that, Peggy. So when you were a kid, right, and did you ever did any and I guess that's a weird thing, right? Because my wife, she actually got me into it. Whenever I was growing up, I lived out River Road. I don't know if you're familiar with that because you're not from here. I lived at River Road, and at the time of me growing up out there, it wasn't the best fire department. It just wasn't really taking care of the way that it should have been. It's good now. Like Mickey and Debbie do a good job with that. But at the time, it was pretty terrible, and it was not anything that I would have ever wanted to be involved in. So me and actually one of my buddies was like, "Man, this fire department would be in way better shape. Like we would love to join it." We were 17 at the time. Well, whatever. And then I kind
Mm-hmm.
of that thought left my head. Whenever I was, turned 18, had some freedom, kind of got to go and do other things, and then I met my wife when I was 21 years old, and she has
Wow.
been in the fire department since she's been 15. And she's fourth generation, and yeah, so, yeah, long. There's a whole long story behind that, and it kind of sparked my interest a little bit, but I'm not gonna lie to you. Like, sometimes kind of getting into the fire service, people aren't so friendly, right? And it's never like anybody like disrespected me or anything. But sometimes as firefighters, we kind of get a little bit of an ego, and it's
Yeah.
kind of hard for people that are from the outside to come in because you're like, well, I'm not gonna fucking come in here, and this guy thinks he's, in the FDNY, like he's about to go run across the street and carry 4 people down by himself. So, but once I kind of like started coming around more, and then it really sparked an interest. And then once I joined, I kind of just it like just took off, right? And I would have never thought that I would have ever taken as many classes. And starting out, I would have never thought that I've ever known as much as that I think that I know. Um, and no, it's probably true.
Yeah.
And and then that's kind of like you said, I see new people come in, and some departments aren't really that good about making sure that their people kind of understand, how to do things and how to operate equipment
Yeah.
and stuff, and they're kind of just like here. Well, to me, that's how you get people hurt, right? Like, especially, as fire departments, we get a bunch of responsibilities thrown onto us that aren't necessarily our job, but somebody has to do it. So we've kind of adopted that. Like tree downs. There's so many people that come in that's never operated a chainsaw in their
Right.
entire life, which is something that will literally take your leg off, right? With something that could extremely injure you. But it is not uncommon for somebody to say, hey,
Hmm.
go ahead and run the saw, and then that person
Yeah.
doesn't want to say, well, I don't know how
And
to
that's
run that. Just go ahead and do it, and then they could get hurt. So I kind of try to take that initiative to make sure that the people that we have coming in
work
know
detail.
what they're doing. And then, like you said, you guys have
Yeah.
work. You guys,
Yeah.
what do you call it? Work detail. Okay, the same thing as ours. Yeah, and
Yeah.
like that is a great
One
time
of
that
the
we
points that
kind of try to
Jason Christopher
do
made
some
was
in-house training.
they never expect you to do something that you don't think you can do. That they understand that, we all have our limitations. And
Yeah.
if I'm not going to be comfortable climbing up on a roof, I'm going to tell them, and they're not going to expect me to do that. So we work up to our ability and learn more.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's the thing too, right? Is I think it's very hard for people to understand and kind of uh, get the mindset that
Mm-hmm.
not everybody instantly just wants to go inside and fight fire, right? That is like
Yeah.
that
Right.
is what everybody thinks. Like, okay, you're taking the class. If you're not going to fight fire, then you don't need to be on the truck, which is not true at all. Um, maybe it kind of like that's all situational based. Like if we have 4 guys that are on the truck that are going to go inside, maybe the person's not going to go inside. Maybe rides in the second truck, but they're still going to be on scene, right? It's just that's all you play that all by off here, But I definitely think that just because somebody doesn't want to go
Exactly.
inside, that they're still just as
Yeah.
valuable. They can do a lot of things outside. There's sometimes more stuff to do outside than there is inside. There's really only one
Right.
person on the hose. You know what I mean? There's and one person backing them up really. But yet,
Yeah. You're
people
a
think that you're
firefighter.
not as valuable because you're not the one inside putting the
Yeah.
fire out.
Yeah, and
Which
that
we need to get away from that stigma.
yeah, well, it really
Mm-hmm.
goes back to what Peggy said earlier too. Like, there's a job for everybody on scene. Like
There
it,
is.
I mean, it doesn't. Yeah, it doesn't matter what you do.
Yeah.
Just just take some initiative and find
Yeah.
something to do.
And
And
even
that's what
directing
a lot of the
traffic.
younger people kind of
Yeah,
need
directing
to
traffic
get
keeps
better at.
you guys safe. Right, right. What fun is that?
Directing traffic.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Mhm.
something
but
that
no,
nobody
that
wants to
helps me
do.
keep
Yeah,
my crew safe.
So another thing though is like Peggy, like you said, you express you're not, interested in really going inside and fighting fire, right? But like, there's a lot of other things that you could do, and there's certain things that like you wouldn't even think that are like as valuable, right? Like going and shutting utilities off.
Right.
Making sure that the power's off outside, making sure that the gas is off, right? Because if we're inside and we're fighting a gas-fed fire, we honestly probably have no clue that this thing is gas-fed. And we're like, why is the fire not going out? Why is the fire not going out? Well, we always have, everybody, like I said, that everybody wants to go inside. Then there's
Right.
nobody outside to take care of those jobs, like shutting utilities off, or making sure that the power's off, or like you said earlier, rehab. I mean,
Right.
which is a humongous thing. Getting bottles. I mean, because if I have to come out and I have to go over and I have to go walk all the way down the street and get a bottle, because half the time we literally have a country mile blocked off with 35, trucks there. Then if I have to walk all the way down there and get
Yeah,
a bottle
you
and come
haven't
all the
sat
way
down
back,
yet.
especially
Yeah.
after I was already inside, I probably don't even. I probably want to go home at that point. But that's awesome that you found a department that that accepted you, even though you weren't, because like I feel like. Right, exactly, right. Yeah, and I was trying to like find the wording for that, right? Because when people really advertise, well, so so when people advertise that they want firefighters, right? Like typically they want somebody that's going to be able to pack up and go inside, right? Like that is normally the ideal person that you want whenever you think that, like I want this guy to sign up. And you know, that's honestly at this point, I don't know what the statistic is, but probably 1 in 4 people that you have that are joining your department are actually going to really go inside and fight the fire. I feel like that's kind of what it's getting at now. And it's scary, right? I mean, I'm not gonna lie to you. It's scary. It's scary as shit to go inside of a dark house that you've never been inside of. And you're crawling around on the floor. Which I don't normally recommend crawling around on the floor. And that's like one of my things is because when you start crawling around on the floor, don't be surprised if you don't feel somebody run over top of your back.
Yeah.
which is awful, and like I know that that's the way they have to teach, but if you'll go on a structure fire and if you see anybody crawling around on the floor, they're probably gonna get trampled on like it's Black Friday shopping. It just like it's dangerous, but you know it. It's good though, like I said, that you found a department that was willing to accept you, because there's probably some departments that you would have went to and they'd have been like, no fucking way, right?
Yeah.
Like they'd have been like, we don't want her. We're not going to take the time or spend the money, and or even let her in a department, because what is she going to do, right? And
Yeah.
then like I'm sure, and she like probably I don't know anybody that that's there that would have had that mindset, because a lot of really great people there. But they've obviously found a lot of value in you, because if they didn't, they probably would have been like, well, Peggy, this isn't really working out. Right. Yep. Yep. Mhm. Right. And you are, and you guys don't get. It's not fair to you guys sometimes, right? Bunker gear was not designed for women, right? Like it
Yeah.
doesn't. And that's just the way it is. No, I know that's actually changed, and I actually know that there is departments now that are actually trying to base bunker gear for like women, and it's like designed different, right? I mean, your guys' physique is totally different. So if you feel uncomfortable in bunker gear, it's probably because it wasn't designed initially for females, right? So if somebody has a cool trick like that, I'm sure that probably made a huge difference. Hmm. Mhm. Yeah, there's a lot, and there's a lot of stuff sometimes that people didn't teach me that that now if I would have known, I'd be like crap. Because the first time you go inside of a structure fire, it's hot, it's steamy, you can't see anything, and you're like, man, you're like, how the hell is everybody else walking around not running into stuff? And little do you know that your mask is actually fogged up, and that you just need to crack your bypass a little bit, or nobody told you that there's steam on the front of your mask, and if you just take your hand and just wipe it, you're like, wow. You're like,
Can
it is.
see.
You're like, it is clear in here. You're like, that's why nobody else just flipped over that couch. Like I'm the only person. But Mhm. Yep. There's small little tricks, like when they small little things, and it's nothing to the instructor because they're trying to teach 30 people, at one time. But then once you get to your own department, and they like kind of show you little tricks, like my sister used to never understand why I could put my mask on so quick. Well, I take the netting for my mask and I peel it all the way to the front. Well, whenever I put my chin in, I can just pull my over and then tighten my mask. Well, then she was sitting here trying to take it and fit it down over top of her head, and she's like, I don't know why this is getting so messed up, right? But if you've never had anybody show you, then you wouldn't know. Okay, I was trying to make a guest appearance.
How about it?
Um, so you kind of mentioned a little bit about when you were a kid and you went to the fire station, and that kind of like sparked a little bit of an interest. Like, where did you said you moved from? I'm off. My memory is awful. You said Ohio. Okay. 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 Right. Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. So so your department was obviously very welcoming, but you probably had the mindset too whenever you went to go take this class that not everybody was going to see it that way, right? Because you obviously have younger kids in there, which sometimes are very immature, and they have a mindset like not saying this to you, but like, why is this old lady in here, right? Like, why there's a bunch of us young kids in here. Why is she now like trying to do this? Like, there's no way she's gonna do it. But like, did you have that mindset? Like, were you kind of worried about that when you took it? Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Di- no, it's awesome. Because my sister actually took the class with you. Megan. I don't know if you remember Megan. Yeah. Yeah, so that's my sister, right? And so I remember they're taking the class and stuff, and they're like, man, they're like, this lady, like this is, this older lady is taking this class with us and stuff. And I was like, like, how old, right? Because like I wasn't in a class, and they're like, we're pretty sure in 70. I was like, no way, right? I'm like, how, like, and I mean, I probably had the same reaction that a lot of people had. Like, that is kind of like, wow, like. Because I obviously had to take the same class that you did, and it's not easy, right? There's a lot of physical, like it. There's nothing that you could really ever compare putting that bulky gear on and then somebody putting an air pack on you and restricting your breathing and being like, hey, you got to do this. And you're like, what? You're like, I feel like an astronaut right now. Yeah, basically, yeah. Yeah. Um, yeah, I think it's awesome. I really do. Like I said, you did something that there's people that, you know, that are young enough to be your grandkids that couldn't do probably, right? It's awesome. Um, yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
Absolutely.
it's dying. It is
It,
it is sad when sometimes you get a call and it's always the same 3, 4 people. Um, like I'm pretty sure NFPA, and I don't know the code, but I should because I took my officer class. So I should know that code. But I know, dropping the ball. But NFPA states that you should have at least, at the minimum, 14 people on a structure fire. Well, I've been on some structure fires before, and they had like 7. Luckily, right? And what's so crazy about this NFPA is that paid departments are also supposed to follow this, and most of the time, if on a paid department, if they actually have 7 people, that can actually pack up and go inside, they're lucky. So some of these requirements are just absolutely bananas. Mm-hmm.
oh yeah.
Yep. A lot. Uh-huh.
Mhm.
Mhm. Yeah, it's and but the problem is sometimes too, I feel like some people may have the same, mindset, is like, I'm a little bit older, can I do it kind of thing, right? And they don't realize that, like you stated, there's so much more to do, that people don't even realize. I don't really know about how to go about that community outreach kind of thing, right? Like to try to actually recruit some of the like senior citizens to, it's hard. Like I said, it's kind of hard for us to even get school age kids,
Mhm.
to come. Um, it's just I don't know. It's if we don't do something here soon, we're gonna be in some danger. Because there's sometimes if you only have 4 people that show up on all of your calls, and those 4 people are at work, then somebody calls and there's nobody to respond. That's mhm. Yeah, and inflation has gotten stupid. Like inflation, like why there has not been some kind of federal law set in place that overcharging on fire equipment, because it is insane that like apparatuses right now are up 120%, which like however that is even legally allowed. Like it's what's so crazy, right? Is right now if I would search freaking flashlight on Amazon, it would give me 85 results for a flashlight that I can buy for $10. But if I would put like firefighting flashlight in there, it could be the same damn flashlight that's now labeled as a firefighting flashlight, and they want to charge me $40 for it. So it's like anything that is supposed to be for emergency responders is like jacked up because you have to buy it. You don't have a choice. And yep. Oh, like $3,500, $4,000 now. You used to be able to buy a set for like $2,500. They used to be able to outfit somebody for $5,000, and now you're lucky if you can put a set of bunker gear on them for $5,000. Uh, yeah, yeah, sure. Yeah, you don't really
Yeah.
realize, right? And and so like luckily in Mullen County our levy passed, so that was a good thing. Yeah, but it's so crazy to me how many people that I actually seen that were posted on some of these posts. Like, this is the Marion County one. It wasn't even here, and the chief just kind of posted and was like, "Hey, thanks everybody, for voting. We greatly appreciate it and stuff." And somebody actually commented and it was like, "Yeah, I kind of wish it didn't pass." And they're like, "Well, what do you mean you don't wish I didn't pass?" And they're like, "Yeah, they're like, I'm already paying enough taxes." And I'm like, "Listen, if you could even begin to understand how much more your taxes would be if you had to pay for a paid fire department, you would be complaining so much more." I mean, because if you live in the city limits of Morgantown, uh, you're paying probably minimum. I know somebody that just lives, and it's based off of like your home value and everything like that and stuff. But like you just live in a trailer and they're paying $180 fire fee a year. So, and then they're paying that, and they're paying way more taxes, because they're in a city. But and then you're paying like I think it's like 7 cents on a dollar for your fire levy, which is like absolutely nothing, right? So, but then you call 911 and somebody shows up. Regardless, but it's insane because there. This has been a few years ago that actually this happened, but in Texas. So you can either choose to pay the fire fee or you don't choose to pay the fire fee. But if you don't pay the fire fee and your house catches on fire, the fire department does not show up. And there was actually an instance where 911 was called. The fire department responded, and the person didn't pay their fee, and they actually watched their house burn down, and their dog died in it. And which is actually crazy was a neighbor who lived right next door to them was like, "Hey, I paid for it," and they're like, "Nope, it doesn't matter. Can't do anything." Yep, absolutely. Let the whole house burn down. You lit up. It's insane. So people that complain about paying less than $100 probably on their taxes for a fire fee for somebody to come to your house, um, be thankful because there's more situations where it could be way worse for you. Yeah, absolutely, yeah. They definitely called Ghostbusters to come pick nobody up, so I'm gonna call the other number. But right, so what they also don't realize too, right, is you have some people that have that mindset that like, oh, you guys get that levy, you guys get so much money. Well, you don't, right?
Mm.
Oh, like you want to look at fuel costs for a year of running, right? Like, you're probably over $10,000 on fuel, right? It's and just, I mean, we have to pay utilities just like everybody else does. Like, the power company doesn't care, the gas company doesn't care. When your gas bill's over $500 in 1 month, well, take all those utilities and times it by 12. Well, then by the time you add everything in there and, making sure that the stuff you already have, which is probably aging, is operational, there's your levy money.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So some people don't really realize how valuable volunteer fire departments are because they don't care. They call 911 and somebody shows up. That's kind of the sad reality of it. And then, like you said, though, is like volunteer. We volunteer our time. We literally get out of bed at 3 o'clock in the morning because somebody wrecked their car. So, and eventually, if something doesn't change, there probably won't be that anymore. You may be waiting for a fire department to respond. You could be 30 minutes. I mean, it just depends on really where they're coming from. Like you said, you didn't realize how many there was, but even as many fire departments as we have, Mon County's huge. And you're still sometimes waiting 10 minutes, depending on how fast the department gets out. Sometimes 15 minutes to actually get somebody. Imagine if there was only 2 or 3 volunteer fire departments. So it's kind of interesting when you sit down and kind of look at the whole thing of volunteer fire departments, and kind of surprising that they're actually still going. I mean, like back in the day, like you just really had people back in the day that were like, hey, listen, this stuff's catching on fire and we need some people that, got some buckets hanging around and, don't mind coming throwing water on stuff. Yep. And then as time went on, people were like, Ben Franklin actually, started the first paid fire department. And then then that started, right? Like there was no thing as a paid fire department before. It was all volunteer. People notice I feel like just human instinct, like you have this instinct to just kind of want to help, right? Like if you would see somebody fall across the street, most random people would be like, okay, I gotta go help this guy. He fell. He needs my help. And it's kind of developed into this humongous thing, which is pretty insane if you ask me. Like, yeah, I agree. Yeah, people don't realize how much volunteer fire departments actually rely on fundraisers. Like, there's even though you may only be making like $1,500 off of something, that could have been $1,500 that was going to go out the door on an expense of something that didn't now have to leave the bank account. It just kind of it paid for that. Like, right. Yeah. Yeah, no, it's pretty crazy. Now what's crazy, Peggy, what's this is actually mind staggering is an SCBA right now average cost almost $9,000 for one SCBA is almost $9,000 right now, and when you have 30 of them, that is right. It's like insane.
That's crazy.
Like some departments are looking at upwards of $300,000 to replace air packs, which how do they ever expect for that to happen? Right, but no, it never will. And that's why, like I said earlier, is like I think it's absolutely like criminal that there's not been some kind of a stop on these rising prices on stuff. Like how I understand inflation, I do, but like you're not gonna tell me that something that cost uh like $5,000 a few years before now costs $10,000. I just you'd have to really there'd be a lot of convincing for me to actually believe that.
I got to see that math.
Yeah, there's math ain't math in there. But yeah, I mean, so what do you think of, Peggy? What do you think some ways that some kind of community outreach, and have you thought about that for your own department on ways to kind of try to get some senior citizens? Hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you said that your friend, or you said your neighbor, that was the one that kind of gave you the push. You said your neighbor, your son. Okay. Well, what about your son? Why did your son volunteering? This is a good time to get in his case about it. It- well, you know what's so crazy, right? Is like, it's kind of weird to explain to somebody how you like kind of drop everything that you're doing, to go do something for free, right? It's kind of hard to explain to somebody. Like, what do you mean you were out cutting trees up all night? Yeah, like if for free, like there's people that get paid to do that, but yet you're out here doing it for free. And like I said, you can't explain to people like what kind of like, I don't know, like I guess I would say like joy or like reward do you get out of it? Yeah, yeah. Yeah, but I've had some sorrow riding the back of a fire truck too. Whenever you get a good size up, you think it's going to be a good structure fire, and then you're halfway across town and you get canceled because it's burnt food. Definitely had some sorrow riding in the back of the truck too, Peggy. But no, like it, and sometimes it's weird that you actually kind of get some enjoyment out of actually just getting to go in the truck and kind of just drive, right? It's hard to explain to people the adrenaline you get, like the lights, the sirens blaring, going through traffic, seeing like the people that you're passing by, um, and the excitement to get to the call, and then what the call is actually going to be like when you get there, because sometimes it's like it's been way worse than you expected, and then sometimes you've expected something really bad and you've got there and it's been something minor. It's uh you don't really know sometimes. That's a weird thing about firefighting is sometimes stuff sounds absolutely BS, and then you get there and you're like, well, this actually pretty good, and then sometimes it sounded really good, and the caller just basically called and said their whole front of their house is on fire, and you get there and the grill was on fire, and it's actually the neighbor's house, and it's out in their yard, and it wasn't even close to their house, and there was no fire. But yeah. Hmm. Yeah, yeah, that's crazy. But like, did you feel like because like obviously you can't lie to yourself about your age, right? Like, so and like you kind of know how, like, what you can do, what you can't do and stuff, or what you think you can't do, and then you kind of then you did it, like you kind of surprised yourself. Yeah, like you thought, you're like, I'm gonna have some trouble with this and I'm not gonna be able to do it, and then you kind of went out there and
You're like, oh,
you
that wasn't that bad.
yeah, you're like, I don't even know why these damn
Why
kids are
was I so?
complaining out here. You're like, I could. You're like, when's the next class? You're like, I'll start next week.
You're like, I'll pick up that car.
but But no, that accomplishment's awesome, Peggy. Like I said, it really is. And you know what is so crazy? And you don't have as much experience as like some other people that are out there that's been doing it for a while. But even you completing that class right now there's probably stuff that you have learned that people that have been firefighters for probably 15 years has not taken that class in a long time do not know. And there's just stuff that they're teaching now that like guys in you. I don't get me wrong. There is stuff that they're going to teach in that class, and you're going to use, and then there's some stuff that they're going to teach in that class that you'll never use and you won't care about. But then, as training goes on, I mean, there's stuff that's changing, right? Like if you have guys that's been 30 years ago, 40 years ago that's been firefighters, and they're like, oh, I've been a firefighter for 40 years, rah, 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 salty, right? But then, you know, Jake wants to bust out laughing out there. But, like some of the stuff that you're learning now, right, is you made a great point earlier about EVs, right? Now, there's probably people that's taken this class 10 years ago. There was maybe one electric car, and it was like some piece of trash Chevy Volt, that was kind of new, or a Prius, but you didn't have Priuses bursting into flames, right? Now you've learned about stuff that is relevant, like stuff that's actually going on now. And what I think is so awful is that the state says it is so important that you have this certification to even get on the truck, but they don't say, well, you don't know about the stuff that's really that's happened in the last 2, 3, 4, 5 years, and they're not requiring people to refresh that. Same thing with driving, right? Is like you get so like with people driving and I think I actually heard your guys' department actually requires you to do refreshers on your evoc, right? Which right, because just because somebody drove fine 5 years ago, their driving could be totally different. They could get careless. 83. Oh, come on. Listen, I actually at work the other day, I went and the guy was like 89 and he was just pulling into his driveway, and I was like, and well, we want to find out later on he's 89. I'm like, this guy 89 still driving. This guy's fine. He's probably in better shape than I am. This guy's out here like whenever God started mowing his grass and stuff, and it's like, it's so insane to me though, right? And there's been people that I've met and I would have never thought that you just turned, because you were 77, right? And then you just turned 78, because I thought the article I read they put 77. Wow. So the article's wrong. I swear I thought the article said 77. But I would have never, if I, when I've seen you before in person, obviously, but I would have never said like 77, right? Because in most people's eyes, like, and this is terrible, you see somebody 77, they're at home, like sitting there watching TV, not doing anything, can't drive, can't really do anything for themselves. Some people that are 77 are in nursing homes, So, but it's amazing though how like you're turning 79, but yet you're out doing stuff that people, like I said, that are 20 years old can't even do. So that's a huge pat, on your own back. It really is, and you should like look at yourself differently, like because I feel like as you start to age, and I'm turning 29 next year, and I feel old, right? I know, but I feel old some days, and I'm like, wow, I'm 29. But and then you're like, I'm 79 out here, and you're doing the same stuff that I am, so I got to suck it up a little bit. No, but I'm serious. It's super impressive. But so my question is how did you actually wind up finding out that you were the oldest person to go through the West Virginia PSD training? Mhm. That's wow. It's huge. Yeah, like I said, because I would have never thought, if you would have told me like, turning 79 years old, there's no way that I would have thought that. I wouldn't have. I mean, I'm not gonna lie to you, and I think that most people wouldn't. yeah, that article probably shocked a lot of people, and I think it's kind of cool that they did do that article because, like you said, you really want other people to look at what you've accomplished and say like, I can also do that, or why am I not doing that? That's a better question. Like, why am I sitting around? And I feel like there is some people that are probably older that do think like, well, I'm old. I don't really have any other, you know, really. I mean, you know, right? Like you're almost turning 80 years old and you're hanging out the firehouse, still going on calls. But then you have some people that are 80 years old that are probably hanging out the senior citizens, you know, center playing chess and stuff, right? Like there's a lot of fun stuff that you can still do even though you're older. Kind of like what I'm getting at with that. Like your age has not stood in front of what you've wanted to do. It's a great article though. I mean, like you'd have probably still got first. You'd have probably got first still. It's really good. Um, it was. What did you think though, Jake? Would you have thought like what? Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah, no, it is because like I don't know. Once you get past a certain age, and uh, I just feel like society kind of goes to that mentality. Well, they're over 65 or whatever. Like they can't work anymore. They're not. They're not really of use anymore. So and like you said, Peggy, I hope people do see uh, even if they see you like out and about on a call or something like that, and they get that thought in their head, like, well, if she can do it, what's stopping me? So I just really hope that you continue to be an inspiration because you already are.
So. Yeah, they're probably like, what?
No way.
Um, yeah, but it's kind of like I said, it is crazy. I because I feel like like if you would tell people, right, like you'd say, hey, I'm in cheat liquor or whatever, and then they say like, how old are you? And you tell them your age, and they'd be like, you've been there for like 30 years, right? Like they automatically assume just because you're older and stuff that you're doing it like you've been there forever, but you haven't. You know, I don't know. It's a great story, and like that's kind of like bringing you on here is kind of like one of the reasons that like I actually kind of started this podcast was that I would we kind of talked about that kitchen table earlier. You kind of talk about sometimes some absolutely ridiculous stuff in there at the firehouse, and then sometimes you kind of talk about some stuff like you get some history lessons and um and what some of the things is though is like some of the guys that were in the departments and made such a huge had such a big influence at everything that went on and kind of are the history of the department. Um, they kind of forget a lot of those stories, right? Like they kind of forget how they happen, and they kind of leave out a lot of details and stuff. And I kind of started this actually because like I said, we'd sit around, we'd talk, and they'd be like, "Oh yeah, yeah, that guy Jake, yeah, he used to run here." They're like, "But I can't remember." Well, that's kind of why I started this was to like kind of have a place where people would come on and tell their stories, and it's here, and hopefully for a long, long time. But yeah, good. We do. And I've brought on, like I said, you are actually one of the first females that I've ever brought on here on top of, you know, on top of that. Like yep, and it is hard. It's extremely, and one thing that I would have thought when I started this, like the first 10 people I had on, they were like boom, 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 like no problem at all. I had people signing up. But then as it's kept going, I have trouble actually sometimes finding people, and it's some people don't understand, like they're like, my story's not that important, but like sometimes it really is, right? Like there's people that um that would know Peggy or whatever, but wouldn't know, like, kind of this side of you, that you're like and you being involved in the fire department, and and it, it, and it's kind of like an inspiration, right? Like if there's some people in that newspaper article that never came out, and we'll just say you never came on a podcast or anything, and then somebody watches this, like that could definitely inspire some people. Like, wow, like, and me too. Like yeah, that's how it started as a love story. It's true. It's weird the ways that if you would sit back and you kind of like the way that you find out that people got involved, right? Like nobody, either you're the weirdest thing about volunteer fire departments too is like they're very like family traditions.
Yeah.
Like people's parents or uncles or cousins or whatever have been in it before them, and then you have some of these just absolutely random people like us that kind of just got thrown into it. It's extremely weird. It really is, because like who's to say that if I never met my wife, if I would have ever joined the fire department, or Jake, I guess if you didn't go to the Challenge Academy for being a bad kid.
I wasn't bad. Thank you very much.
Oh,
My background check comes back clean.
Depends on how deep they dig.
Yeah.
And
Well,
then Peggy, like if your son didn't suggest it, right? Like you would have how many times do you drive past the fire department and just like never Mhm. Oh, so you came back. Okay, yep. Yep. Listen, you're an art. If you were in our department and you went and used the bathroom, you'd probably been a third truck out.
yeah, you're getting left.
It is insane. Like me and Jake sometimes, like we both live, right. Like I could have probably, on a good day, I could probably almost throw a baseball and hit the fire department.
Oh yeah.
And same with him. And sometimes we'll get there, and just depending on who's there, and we have a lot of people that hang out too. You've been on a second truck.
Mm-hmm.
And we're here. We're like literally, like I said.
Yeah.
I mean, like I've ran to the fire department before, and it's insane. So yeah, that 2 minutes here, you'd be late.
You're gone.
They'd have done been halfway to the call by then. Yeah, but so like you saying though, is you're running all like every call you guys get kind of situation, or do you? Okay. Hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Right. That's true. No, and that's fine because to be honest, I'm sure they would. But like, you understand sometimes like your limitations, right? Like, you wouldn't want to put yourself in a situation where you, but like, but and I can imagine how hard that is too, because like, you get into this and it's so exciting and it's new to you, and you're like a kid, right? And you're like, but then on the backside, you got to be like, I'm not a kid, so. Right. But the good thing is even if you did go on a call,
Oh, I was just gonna.
the people that are with you would probably, like take care of you, right? Like they'd make sure that. But some of your knowledge, like you said that you volunteered, like you did some volunteering and stuff, at a rescue squad, right? Management, okay.
Okay.
So like, what's some background on that? Like, pretty interesting, or okay, okay, movie star Peggy. Okay, yeah, which is sometimes you need that designated person that's not going to sound like an idiot when they talk to the reporter. Absolutely. That is the most important thing because you don't want somebody to say the wrong thing. Hmm. Hmm.
Hmm.
See,
Well,
go, Jake, go ahead.
oh, I was just gonna say it's funny you say that, Peggy, because, like the Dominion Post around here, I think there's just one specific guy, but he will come and try to get right up on like fatal car wrecks and stuff like that, and he is just right there, and it's like, back off, please. Like we need space,
Yeah.
and it's just crazy. And they're
See,
like vultures.
but with you bringing that up, Jake, and then Peggy, you with having that experience, that's kind of a role sometimes that, like you were just talking about, like older people, and like you having a background in that, that's a role sometimes that that I think fire departments don't even realize that they really need. So
Oh,
you see big departments that obviously have like paid PIOs and stuff, and like that, but like volunteer fire departments, because like I said, you have old Joe Smo over here who does a great job, extricating somebody or putting the fire out, but then he comes out and they're like, so what happened? Dead, two kids, absolutely mangled. And it's like,
gone.
and you're like, what did he just say to the guy from the newspaper? Because now they're gonna put quotation,
Yeah.
Cheat Lake Volunteer Fire Department states 2 children mangled in car wreck. And then like everybody else who's reading that's like,
Who are these
who's
people?
letting this guy talk to people? So right there, that background that you said, like you don't realize how important it is to have somebody in a role that other people would look at it and be like, this guy's worthless. Like this guy's just
Yeah.
standing around not doing anything. But your whole job is to talk to the media. Hmm. Sure, it's scary.
Oh yeah.
I mean, even certain things you say, and it doesn't even matter if you say the wrong thing. It's just if you say something and they look at it like they can run with it, they will.
Oh, they will.
So, wow. Hmm. Hmm. Sure. but like you having the experience in like something like that, like that's something that like I think that you could help other departments with too, right? Like because like some departments, you could be the best fire department out there, but like your public relations and stuff is just awful. Like you don't know how to um. It's just like sometimes you get in the mindset of like um, it's none of their business kind of thing, right? But like they're like Jake just said, they're vultures. You say no comment, it's none of your business. They're gonna be like arrogant fire department, let's
Yeah.
house burn down. But if you just get told them what they wanted to hear, some of and sometimes you want to kind of let them know what's going on, but without revealing critical, like information. Yeah, it is,
Mhm.
or people with loose lips, right? So people with loose lips, either you kind of let people know what's actually going on, or it's like playing telephone with people. People go to work and they're like, "Yeah, I was on this car wreck last night and this and blah 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 that." Well, then they tell somebody else, they're like, "Oh yeah, Johnny was on this car wreck last night and this happened. This guy was drunk, even though he wasn't drunk. He had like some kind of medical emergency, with his diet, sugar's low. But then 4 people later, they're like, "Oh my God, Peggy was drunk last night and wrecked her car." Well, literally, the person that they could be telling this to was like, "Well, I read on the news, or read on the news. I seen on the news that Peggy actually had a medical emergency. And she wasn't intoxicated, but that literally could kind of cancel out some other bad information that got put out there. That's a really important job." Mhm.
Absolutely.
And I'm not even gonna lie to you. All like, all like I said, I haven't been around for 30 years, but I got some experience, and I would have never thought like in my head until you really pointed it out, like how important that position really is, right? Like, and now it kind of actually like I'm not gonna lie to you, kind of stumped me a little bit with that because now I kind of look back at like why you worry about your president, you worry about your vice president, you worry about your treasurer, and you worry about your executive position, and then your fire officers. Well, you would even worry about your trustees, but like then you don't worry about how you're covered by the media, right? Like you don't really realize how important of a position that is. So now you kind of sit back and you think like, why is that not a position? Why is there not somebody that's in a role that if they're on scene and it's one of those things where it's like that person's not always going to be available, right? That's the thing. But if that person is available, if anybody, and you said you went and took some classes, so it's not probably just something that Peggy came out and started walking, and then she knew how to talk to the media, right? Okay. So you've taken some class and you got some experience with doing it. So then you knew what you could say, what you couldn't say, kind of thing. And how did you take those classes, real quick? I don't mean to cut you off. How did you take them? Okay. Mhm. Mhm. Wow. Wow. Right. Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah.
You guys were playing with Mercury back in the day, Peggy?
Goodness gracious.
Man. No. Like, our generation is like, they literally, like, you, they got rid of lead paint. Like, now that our generation, and like, that's when they started to put Tide Pods locked behind cages, because people, your generation, Peggy, was playing with Mercury. um, maybe. You know where I can get some Mercury at? You know a guy. Um, but it, but like I said, you really did kind of open my eye up a little bit on that, and now that I do think sometimes where this is actually kind of a good thing, where there's some leaders in departments can kind of sit back and think like, like, sorry, somebody, wife texted me. Like, they could sit back and think like, how did we get along this long with not having somebody designated to that position? Because um it's kind of crazy, and I've even seen reporters come on scene and interview somebody that's not even in charge of that scene. Like, they're not even like the IC, and I'm like, this guy's like fourth doing the structure fire. He probably didn't even know where this street was if he didn't put it in the maps. And you're gonna ask him about what happened. He probably doesn't even know. They probably got here 5 minutes before you got the camera out of the truck. It's insane, right? Like, and the media loves that. They would love to be able to catch somebody off guard, and because it sells, right? Like, if there's some kind of crazy article where, like, this guy's like, "Oh, I don't know. We didn't really, when we got here, they weren't really doing anything to try to stop the house from burning down." Well, then it's like, then they're putting in the newspaper like, volunteer fire department firefighter quotes that the fire department let the house burn down, and it's
Yeah.
like they didn't do anything to stop it. So it's kind of crazy, but Mhm. Yeah, no, I agree with you. I definitely do. Yeah. Well, what do you think, Jake? You got some questions, some follow up questions, or anything? Yeah, but there's never like a wrong question, really. Like, there's not, like, I it's the one thing that I like always tell people though is that the worst thing that you can do is like somebody tries to show you something and then you say, "Well, I already know how to do that." Because like we kind of talked about earlier, like, if I've been doing it way longer than you, you're like, "Well, they taught me how to do this in my firefighter one class," and I'm like, "Yeah, but like it was wrong." You know what I mean? Like that. Like, when you're trying to teach all these people something, you're gonna go right off the textbook, and that's just a textbook way of doing it, and you don't really care. You know what I mean? Like, about teaching them, I guess, like, simpler ways, because a lot of the time too, and this isn't like bashing them, but like some of these instructors, you're never going to be in their department or on their call, so they don't really care. They're teaching you what you need to learn, the basics to get you through the class and stuff, and then it's up to your department to kind of teach you how they want things done. Um, so I got some questions for you though. So if you could, really, now everything that you've kind of went through in your life and stuff, and now kind of getting to experience something new here. If you could go back and like tell your younger self something, well, like what would you tell them? It's good. Yeah, because I did that before and I failed, and believe me, I learned that it's embarrassing, and I don't want to do it again, right? So I try to find better ways to not fail, because I don't want to be that guy where everybody's over there, look at this dumbass over here, look, this guy
Like,
don't know what
oh,
he's doing.
this guy's
This guy doesn't know what who let this guy on the truck? Um, but really, there's another one that I always go off of. Like I normally ask my guests like some questions to finish it up. So like if you could be remembered, with someone using one word, what word would you want to be described by? That was almost like a tongue twister. The whole fact that I actually even got all that out was very surprising to me. Sassy?
sassy.
So if I ever go on a fire and they're like, yeah, there's a sassy lady from Sheet Lake over there,
I'm
I'm
like,
like, oh,
oh,
it's
that's
probably
Peggy.
that's Peggy over there.
That's Peggy.
Over there telling the media a bunch of crazy nonsense.
There's Peggy telling her old Mercury story.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Sassy? What about you, Jake? What do you think? What's a word that you think that you'd want people to describe you using?
What a word that I would want people to describe
Yeah,
me?
to you. Yep. Did you not just listen to the whole question I just asked her, Jake?
No, I did.
She said sassy. Do you also think you're sassy? And it's hard whenever you sit here and you start thinking about it.
Yeah, when you sit there and
But it really kind of makes you
I'd
think,
want to
though,
be.
right? Like,
I'd probably want to be remembered as like proactive, like because like I said earlier, like you should never get in the mentality of, well, I've done this, 10 plus times. I've got it down, like because you just
complacent.
yeah, because that will kill you in this service. That will kill you because and you need to always train like your life depends on it because one day it will.
Yeah, or somebody else's, right?
Yeah,
like the worst thing is that you kind of also have to look at your own weaknesses, and then you also kind of have to look at the weaknesses around you.
yeah,
And if that person, sounds kind of crazy, but if that person's not willing to kind of fix it, you kind of have to be prepared to kind of fill in that gap.
yeah.
Because we rely on each other, and then sometimes there's weaknesses that you didn't even know that you had until sometimes they're kind of exposed.
Yeah, they come out at the worst times, and you're like, wow, now we're behind the 8 ball.
Probably dependable. I like the wow, Jake over there just laughing. I know. But so like the reason like I like dependable is like I try to strive to try to know a little bit about everything, right? Like even some oddball stuff that like I think that we will probably never go on. But I like to kind of try to know some random stuff that like if we would ever get put in that situation, I may not be able to completely get us out of it, but I could kind of help, get kind of on the right track because um I the worst thing is when I think about that word dependable is how many times have you like got in a truck and there's somebody on that truck and you're like, holy shit, this I kind of like everything goes better when this guy's not here.
Yeah,
Like it's not here. But then there's time where you get on the truck and you're like, all right, cool, this guy's here. Like I feel a lot better. Like you're eases your mind knowing that person's there because we've all been on a call and you're like, holy shit, like what are we gonna do? And the actual person that knows what to do is not here, and we shouldn't have been here at all. Like, whose idea was this?
Why are we here?
Like, you're on your way to the call and you get the size up, and you now wish that like you could just go silent and go back to the station and go back home.
You're like, I just want to go home. I'm not even having
And
fun
they're going to
anymore.
ask you if you're responding, and you're like, we're never responding. I don't know what you're talking about. We never acknowledge the call. We've been here the whole entire time. Go ahead and get next due. Yeah.
I'd say dependable is actually a pretty good word for you, considering how we first met, which is
on a call.
Well, no, you responded to my house. My CO detector went off. Yeah, yep. I had we put our applications in already?
Nope. I'm pretty sure you got them that next day, right? Or did you pick them up yet?
I think we had just put them in.
Man, I must not have been at that meeting.
Days later, we had to call them, and they were like, "Yeah, you're gonna die if you stay here." So we ended up staying at the hotel.
Well,
it was
he
crazy.
makes it sound so extreme, right? Like, I'm glad he's not talking to the media, Peggy. They'd be like, firefighter said if you stay here, you're gonna die. Like, I'm gonna come back and harm them.
No, see, that's
what it was that right? We actually went
cheap.
there, and there was actually CO. We actually picked up CO inside of the house, and actually couldn't find the source, even with ventilating and everything. It was still there. It wasn't a gas. It wasn't a gas leak. Gas company came the next day, confirmed. We're still not sure where it's from, but we kind of just advised them like, hey, it's at a almost safe kind of level, but with your wife being pregnant, it's probably not a good idea that you stay here. Just because, kind of like you need to leave, but I also can't tell you to leave your house, like kind of thing. So
no, tell me. I need direction.
But that dependable is I like I said, I try to describe myself as that. Because I always try to put myself in a position that I always want to be the guy that shows up that I would want showing up if I had an emergency. Like I wouldn't want to be the guy where if somebody showed up, I'd be like, fuck, call somebody else. Yeah. Like, this guy's not touching me kind of situation. Like this guy was playing with mercury.
This guy was eating lead paint back in the day.
Peggy, you'll never live that down now. But seriously though, yeah, I mean the sassy, and that's funny. You have to get that put on the back of your bunker jacket now, sassy.
That'd be cool.
But yeah, no, I appreciate you coming on, Peggy. I thought it was awesome, and I'm glad that I got you to come on and tell your story, and kind of like I said, it also kind of helps to try to use this as a platform to kind of try to get some community outreach, I there's nobody really else that I could have even tried to name off the bat that is your age that's doing what you're doing. It's a unique thing, and it kind of really is an inspiration to other people that may not even be your age. It could be like way younger than you that are now feeling kind of like inferior, that their age is going to be an obstacle in them volunteering. You never know. There's some guys that are retiring at 55, 60 years old, and now they're thinking like, I'm too old to do it. Like, there's all these young guys doing it, but your age doesn't really play a role in you not being able to do anything, because there's so many positions. Like I said, it doesn't mean that we're automatically going to expect us because you join that, like, we're going to put a pack on you and we're like, all right, you go inside of there. Like, is he?
Yeah. I was gonna say, he's been there a long time.
I didn't know that Jimmy is that old.
Oh yeah.
I didn't know that he was that old.
Yeah.
He's the old guy. Do you call him the old guy? Well, you refer to him? You're like, why are these old people in here?
They have
like, I came down here to volunteer. This isn't a community center. Like, but yeah. You're like, my God. Like, you guys don't know what hair dye is? Like, come on. You're embarrassing us. But no, that's Yeah, yeah. That's yeah, that's funny.
They start arguing, and you're like, "Oh, we'll turn this fire truck around. I swear to God."
Yeah, you're like, you kids don't want to listen. Yeah,
There'll be no car wreck for anybody.
yeah. That's but like I said, no problem, Peggy. I'm glad that you came on. Like I said, I seen it, the article, and like I kind of knew about it, and then I was like, I don't know if she'll want to come on. So that's why I kind of reached out to you and stuff, and I'm glad that you were, like wanted to come on, because like I said, it's some people don't feel that their story is really that important, but it is, and it's a huge inspiration to to other people, to really, like I said, for you to come on here and like be like, you can still do this.
Nice meeting you, Peggy. Thanks for hanging out with us.
I think
I
think
agree.
it's awesome. Yeah. So
Yeah, I agree.
all right, Peggy and Jake, thank you guys for coming on. I appreciate it.
See you guys.
See ya.